Throughout very honored tonight, or this evening, to have the mayor, the honorable mayor of Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And not only that, the gubernatorial candidate, I'm getting tight-tongued here, I will put it this way, the next governor of the state of Alabama, the Honorable Walt Maddox.
Good evening, Demopolis. It is an honor and privilege. We're neighbors, we're friends, we've known each other for a long, long time. It always feels like when I'm in Demopolis, I'm coming home. And so it's certainly great to be here. Mayor Laney, your town is amazing. It's certainly a treasure for the state of Alabama. And when elected governor, I look forward to working with you to continue the progress that your administration's been making right here. He has been a dear friend of mine, and I know his love and passion for Demopolis, so I look forward to working with you. To Judge Hall, I know what a great job you do for this county, and it certainly benefits by your leadership. And I look forward to working with you, especially on the issues of mental health moving forward. And I look forward to that opportunity. And District Attorney Griggers, again, I appreciate what you said today. I know the challenges that your office faces, especially with a correction system that's not doing its share, and our judicial system that's overburdened. And I look forward to working with you. And to all the elected officials I see out here, Commissioner Cherry, I think I saw Representative McCampbell, I know that I'm going to leave someone out, but to all of you that are here, thank you for what your service to your respective communities, and most importantly to the people here tonight. Concerned citizens that are here because you care about the future of Alabama. And I know you could be many other places, but you chose to be here at this voter education seminar. And I appreciate you taking the time to do that. And as I always say at these types of events, I know if I leave someone out, I tend to probably make someone upset when I do that. I hope you'll blame it on my mind and not my heart. We have crammed in the last few weeks hundreds of events across Alabama. I think we have about, I was counting on the calendar, I think we got 155 events left over the next 29 days. We are going to be crisscrossing this state. And so when Delta Sigma Theta Sorority invited us, we wanted to be here in Demopolis, Alabama, because Marengo County and Demopolis in particular is going to be important if we're going to win on November 6th, just 29 days from now. Now, I know you're tired, you've had a long day, and I don't want to bore you too much, but I do think it's important we get a chance to talk. Unfortunately, in this race, my opponent has decided that silence and hiding behind the marble of Montgomery is a better strategy than talking to the people that pay her salary. As mayor of Tuscaloosa, I've held over 100 town hall meetings in 13 years. When I was reelected with 89% of the vote, in 2017, I participated in every forum, every debate, not because I felt like politically I had to. I felt a moral obligation to tell people why I deserved another 4 years in office. I think it's so important that our leaders never choose silence. You know, Dr. King said our lives begin to end the day we remain silent about the things that matter. This is a time in Alabama's history where silence cannot be accepted as a method to solve our problems. Let me just briefly outline some of the issues we're facing right now in Alabama, and both Republicans and Democrats will tell you these problems are real. First, as I mentioned earlier, mental health in Alabama has collapsed. Since 2010, under the Bentley and Ivey administration, we have seen 4 mental health institutions close their doors. In fact, the city of Tuscaloosa actually had to sue the administration just to keep Rice Hospital open. And losing over 1,000 mental health beds have meant that our jails have become the new mental health treatment centers. In fact, today, Rice Hospital is the largest mental health institution in Alabama. The second largest is Tuscaloosa Metro Jail. 30% of our inmates are on psychotropic drugs. Our mental health centers that are existing are overtaxed. Our jails are overburdened, and yet all we hear is silence. Our corrections department is currently under court order by Judge Myron Thompson. In fact, 2 weeks ago, Judge Thompson almost held the Ivey administration in contempt of court for failure to turn over public documents. public documents. And since that time, we have seen the only plan come forward from the Ivey administration is to build nearly $1 billion in new prisons. By the way, no bid contract, so I'm sure nothing bad's going to happen there. And it doesn't address the 4 key issues: the lack of mental health, the lack of substance abuse, the lack of job training, and the lack of educational attainment. And if some people out there say, well, why is he so worried about people in the Department of Corrections? Let me tell you why. If you want to take a very take the moral view out. If you want to take a very selfish view, 90% of those that are in corrections are going to come out of corrections. And if you want to be talking about the safety of your home, the safety of your neighborhood, the safety of your community, by the way, our state has less than 300 state troopers on the highways. That's actually smaller than law enforcement in Tuscaloosa County. Let that sink in for a second. What do you think happens to an individual that doesn't they likely went in with a substance abuse problem and they come out with one? No job training, no education. What's going to happen? You're going to come right back out. Then let's talk about our roads and bridges. 20% of Alabama's bridges are functionally obsolete. That means an engineer said you should not go over those bridges. And 20%, 1 out of 5, are functionally obsolete in our state. Tomorrow, when school gets back going again in full force across this state, you're going to have over 1 million people go over those bridges. Tens of thousands of school buses. And in the last 8 years, the Bentley Ivey administration has done nothing to address that problem. And now let's talk about education. Across Alabama, education continues to be 46, 47, 48, 49, and every indicator that matters. And is it me, or is it the same 100 schools that we see time and time again not achieving where they need to be? And yet our teachers have basically taken a pay cut over the last 10 years. Our school systems are struggling just to keep their buildings maintained. And yet, what do we hear? Silence. And then lastly, healthcare. You know, a year ago on October 5th, I announced my candidacy. And when I did Dr. Boyd, I would have said that education was the top issue facing Alabama, but I was wrong. It's actually healthcare. Now, nationally, Alabama ranks somewhere between 47 to 50. But 2 weeks ago, the Centers for Disease Control ranked Alabama #1 in infant mortality. #1, 9.1 fatalities per 1,000 births in our state. When I say that's third world territory, I am not exaggerating. That is the truth. And by the way, if you're African American in our state, that number jumps to 15.1. And our state, since 2012, has refused to take Medicaid, not for financial reasons, not for healthcare reasons, simply for political reasons. And in that time, hospital after hospital has closed, pediatric clinic after pediatric clinic has moved on, OBGYN services and other specialties have evaporated, and right here in Demopolis, Alabama, your city had to fight to keep your hospital here. And thank goodness Demopolis was able to do that, but not every community has the resources and the intellectual and fiscal capital to be able to do that. And across our state, healthcare is in crisis. In fact, the Alabama Hospital Association estimates that if we do not expand Medicaid in the next 2 years, you could see more than 12 hospitals close in our state. That's not a Democrat or Republican number. That is the Alabama Hospital Association. You remember I began my remarks about 7 minutes ago talking about silence? These are real issues. These are not manufactured issues. I'm not talking about mountain oysters and Confederate monuments. I am talking about real things that matter to each and every one of you, to nearly 5 million Alabamians. This is a moment that requires more than just being quiet and hiding behind the marble of Montgomery. This is a moment where leadership defines itself. This is where you need crisis leadership in Alabama. Now, I intentionally didn't mention this person in my beginning remarks because I wanted to emphasize how important this election is. Now, I would be lying to you to say that a governor alone can solve these problems, because he or she can. And that's why getting Will Boyd elected as our next lieutenant governor is absolutely paramount if we're going to succeed in 29 days. That deserves a round of applause. Alabama desperately needs leaders like Dr. Boyd who are willing to put people above the party and who will never lie to you. And I certainly need Dr. Will Boyd with me in the legislature as we take on these battles. But let me say this, I've spent 13 years as mayor of Tuscaloosa. We're the fastest growing, largest city in Alabama. A couple years ago, we ranked as one of the fastest growing and one of the best cities in reducing poverty. We have been able to accomplish so much through a great recession, through a tornado that destroyed 12.5% of our city. And we've done it by two things. Well, three things really. Number one is I'm surrounded by, I live in an incredible community, and my staff around me is some of the best leaders. I have a great reflection of their amazing work. Number two is that in Tuscaloosa, we've been able to forge a common bond because whether you're Republican or Democrat, black or white, rich or poor, you want what's best for your children. You want good schools. You want good health care. We all believe mostly in the same God. We all share those same principles. Leaders are able to find a way to tap into that and find a common course for the common good. Those are the type of principles that we are going to bring to Montgomery. So don't run out of time. What I'd like to do is talk about what I'm going to do day one. Just day one. And just day one, Will Boyd and I are going to move Alabama forward tremendously. The first thing I'm going to do after I'm sworn in as your governor is I'm going to sign the executive order expanding Medicaid in Alabama. In fact, I saw in a recent television commercial where she bragged about creating 16,000 jobs. Now, I disagree a little bit with that because I've been part of those jobs and I don't remember seeing her with me when we were doing that, but let me just go ahead and give credit to the governor. I'll default and give the governor the credit for that. When we expand Medicaid by executive order in my first hour as your governor, we create 30,000 new jobs. How about them apples? Now those jobs have an average salary of $40,000. It's going to basically put $1.8 billion into our state for a mere 10% cost to the state of Alabama, about $180 million. By the way, Louisiana did this under Governor Edwards 2 years ago. They had just found in their fiscal 17 study that the state of Louisiana paid for their Medicaid expansion to a $200 million savings they were able to generate through their expansion alone. It makes all the economic sense, and that's why there's such bipartisan support for it. Now, beyond that $1.8 billion, it's going to be able to stabilize our rural hospitals in our state, and it's going to give us time to be able to address a lot of the serious healthcare problems that exist. The second thing that I'm going to do, I am going to call a special session, and Dr. Boyd's going to help us pass the Alabama Education Lottery. I'm tired of educating children in Tennessee and Florida and Georgia. Now it's about to be Mississippi as well. Now I have a very personal story that makes this something that I know we must do. I'm very blessed. I grew up in Tuscaloosa. For those of you familiar, near Bowers Park over in Idlewood. My mom was a retired school teacher. My dad was a school teacher and then retired from the Alabama Department of Vocational Rehabilitation. My parents didn't have much, but I didn't know that growing up. And my sister, when she was in college, she was a senior and I was a freshman. I remember coming home for Christmas after my first semester at UAB, and my parents told me they were selling the house. And they were moving to a rental house that they owned in Alabama. And the reason why my parents were doing that is so they could keep Sarah and I both in college. Now I think about them giving up the home of their dreams, moving 40 miles away into a rental house that was halfway basically constructed, just to keep Sarah and I in school. Now, I don't think any family in Alabama should be placed in that situation to send their children to college, 2-year, or any job training program. That's why under our lottery plan, we're going to provide college scholarships very similar to what you see in Tennessee. It is time that we begin a full court press on ensuring that every child has a quality education and the job skills necessary to succeed. And if you don't think it's important, since the Great Recession, 90% of the new jobs that have been created have required either a degree from a 4-year institution or a skill that you have learned at a 2-year college institution. If Alabama is going to compete in a technology-driven, technology-integrated economy, the time is now that we provide the skills necessary so they can be competitive. When Stephanie, my wife, and I were thinking about this run over a year ago, She actually put us over the top. And Stephanie is going to make an unbelievable, beautiful First Lady. But she is very apolitical. I mean, trust me, she'd rather probably I not run for governor if she had, but she felt like we needed to. The main reason why is because she didn't want Eli and Taylor to leave Alabama if they wanted to stay there. Because we want our children to raise their family here, as Commissioner Turner, I just saw back there. We want them to raise their families here. We want them to start a business here if they want to. But aren't we getting to a point when we're at or near the bottom and everything that matters, we're beginning to raise our children and go live somewhere else? That's why this lottery plan is so important. A couple other things for the lottery we want to do with this. Number two is we want to provide universal pre-K across Alabama. It's time that we begin at 4 years old. In Tuscaloosa, we started funding pre-K for our academically at-risk over 10 years ago, and the results have been amazing. 85% of our students that are academically at risk at 4 years old, when they graduate, when they move to get out of first grade, nearly 85% are reading on grade level. By the way, if you don't think early childhood is important, if you're not reading on grade level by fourth grader, if you're still learning to read and not reading to learn by fourth grade, there's an 80% chance you will not graduate high school. We have got to get it early for our children in Alabama or they will never be able to succeed. The third thing that we want to do is provide wraparound services at our schools that have been failing for way too long. Because of our bad prenatal care in Alabama, too many of our children come in to the classroom with not only academic deficits, but social deficits, medical deficits, and we have to address that or we're going to continue to fall behind. And the last thing that we want to do as part of our lottery program is that we have what's called the Promise Program. I love policy, I love detail, I'm going to spare you that, but the bottom line is this. The way that Alabama's education funding system is structured, it makes it hard on rural Alabama to compete based off your millage rate. Under our Promise Program, the Demopolis City Schools would get an additional $1.1 million a year to put directly in the classroom, and the Marengo County School would get nearly $300,000 to put directly in the classroom. Now, I imagine that could go a long way to arts, music, career education, or whatever it may be. Maybe even funding an SRO to make certain that our schools are safe. Now, the last thing that I want to do. As your governor, the third action that I'm going to take in my first hour is the state of Alabama is going to stop paying Governor Robert Bentley's legal bills. Since November of 2017, our state has continued to pay the legal bills, by the way, not disclosed by the administration, it was disclosed through the media, has continued to pay over $300,000 worth of legal bills for not actions as governor, but actions as an individual away from his capacity in office. It is that type of corruption that we are going to end beginning day one in Montgomery. Now, absolutely. So, Dr. Boyd and I, in the end, are in your hands. As Dr. Boyd said, we have crossed this state. We are talking about the issues. We're not talking about monuments and mountain oysters. We're talking about health care. We're talking about education. We're talking about public safety. We're talking about mental health. We're talking not only about these issues, we're talking about how to solve these issues. All of you here tonight are here because you care. You have a deep feeling about our democracy. Now, I think we have seen, especially in the last couple of years, nationally and here in our state, that elections have consequences. Elections have consequences. This election is not about an R or a D. It's about the past versus the future. It's about right versus wrong. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Boyd and I are on the right side of history. But on November 6th, we need your vote to make certain that we move from the right side of history to doing the right thing for Alabama. So, over the next 29 days, there's a few things that Dr. Boyd and I need. Number one, until October 22nd, we've got to register people to vote.
That's right.
The second thing that we've got to do is on November 6th, it's not only about you voting, it's about taking someone else to vote. It's about taking 10 people to vote, 12 people to vote. Because think about this. I can't speak for Dr. Boyd's opponent, but I can guess about mine. My opponent is not debating. My opponent's not granting interviews. My opponent is hoping you will forget there's an election. My opponent is hoping for apathy and not energy. My opponent's hoping for silence. Is silence in the best interest of Marengo County? It's not. And it's not in the best interest of the state of Alabama. This is our moment. You know, I love history, so I'm going to close with this. I love history. When I grow up, I want to be a history teacher. You know, I'm 45 years old, I still feel like I'm those young people up against the wall. And one of the moments in history I love most is a moment that came out of tragedy. It was the night that JFK was assassinated, and LBJ was back in D.C. and he was surrounded by his advisors in his home, and they were talking about what they had to do to keep the country together. And LBJ, who was, you know, former school teacher, actually former segregationist down in Texas, who's now been elevated to the presidency through tragedy, is listening to his advisors argue and go back and forth, and he said, stop. Men, I want to pass President Kennedy's Civil Rights Bill. And as you can imagine, his advisors went crazy. They said, this president, don't do that, Mr. President. You're going to divide the country, you're going to divide the party. If you do nothing, Mr. President, if you do nothing, sound familiar, if you do nothing, you will be elected in less than 12 months. And LBJ, in a very defining moment for the history of this country, said, man, what good is the presidency if you don't do anything with it? What good is the presidency if you don't do anything with it? Let me ask you tonight, what good is the governorship if you don't do anything with it? What good is the governorship when you have 600,000 people in our state underemployed? What good is the governorship if mental health institutions continue to close and nearly 100,000 families can't find services for their loved ones? What good is the governorship when students at R.C. Hatch in Uniontown literally go to school just a few feet from a sewer lagoon that overflows hundreds of thousands of gallons of sewage every month? What good is the governorship when district attorneys and probate judges and law enforcement are faced with mental health consumers who don't need to be in jails, they need to be getting treatment so we can get them back on the road of recovery? What good is the governorship when we have an opioid addiction that goes unabated and yet you turn a blind eye saying that's a local responsibility? What good is the governorship when you promote Confederate monuments over trying to rebuild our bridges and repave our roads? What good is the governorship if you're unwilling to talk to your constituents and the people that pay your salary? People of Demopolis, this election has consequences, and it has deep and meaningful consequences. Dr. Boyd and I need your help, and with your help, and with your votes, you will see what good the governorship and the lieutenant governorship is for this state. And with your help, not only are we going to be on the right side of history, for the first time in decades, we're going to be right. God bless each and every one of you. Please continue to believe. Thank you very much.
I'm Delindus Harsavina. I'm here with the OnPoint Channel News, and I'm here with Walt Maddox, our future governor. We're just going to go ahead and say that, but I'm sure some of the candidates wouldn't like for me to say that, but that's my thought process.
Thank you.
So can you give us some information of your platform or what you plan on doing when you do become governor?
Well, we're going to immediately call a special session for an Alabama Education Lottery, and what that's going to do is several things. One's going to create a scholarship program for not only 4-year and 2-year college, but also workforce development, apprenticeships, career technical. The second thing out of that lottery is we want to create the Promise program, which is going to help rural school systems who struggle with their millage rate. For example, Demopolis would, under our lottery plan, get another $1 million a year. Sumter County schools would likely get nearly $1 million a year. Right here in Marengo County, nearly $300,000 a year. It's all based off your student enrollment and millage rate, and so that's going to be a great benefit. And the third thing we want to do is provide wraparound services for our students who come in probably with a little bit more than academic deficits, social deficits, or mental health. And the last thing, universal pre-K. Every 4-year-old child will have an opportunity to universal pre-K in Alabama.
Wow, those are great opportunities and platforms and things to do, because I used to be a Head Start teacher and also a high school teacher. So I know
You've seen it on both ends.
Yes, sir. And the thing about it is it wasn't, at the time, it was not enough Head Start programs. And a lot of kids were missing out on that foundation. So I think that's going to be a great benefit. Can you also tell us about healthcare? Because a lot of our students don't have healthcare, and that's the issue. issue that we have with the students that are going to school.
Well, and what we want to do day one, the first act is I'll do as your governor is expand Medicaid through executive order. This is going to provide 330 plus thousand Alabamians opportunity in health care. Other states, most people in other states have this. Alabama doesn't, mainly because of political decisions, not policy decisions. We're going to change that immediately.
Oh, awesome. So great. So make sure you get out to the polls. If you have not registered, as Ms. Hall said earlier, you have till October the 22nd to get registered to vote. And even if you don't get time before then, before October 22nd, do it for the future. It's important that you have the right to vote and you take that right to vote. We want to thank you so much for taking the time to interview with us. And I know you're a busy person, but we appreciate it.
Hey, thank you very much for having me.
Yes, sir.